Hello, everyone. Once again, Monsignor Ritchie from St. Patrick's Cathedral. Today is Tuesday, and on Tuesday we do questions and answers. Some of them are very interesting. Some I can't answer because I have to research them, a couple of the questions. So, this comes from New Jersey, I think. First question, why is the Archbishop's assistant sometimes dressed in vestments and sometimes in black cassock without vestments? Well, the Cardinal's assistant, his secretary, his priest secretary, the name is Father Stephen Reese, and when he has the vestments on, it means he's concelebrating with the Cardinal and with the other priests who are up on the altar. When he's dressed in a cassock and surplice, it means he's acting in his role as the master of ceremonies for the Cardinal. So he's a priest, so he can concelebrate. On Sundays and some other occasions, he acts as the master of ceremonies for His Eminence Cardinal Dolan, and as such, he would not be dressed in vestments. When the assistant is dressed in a black cassock, he kneels during the consecration. He does not do that when he's dressed in vestments. Well, that's the reason is that he's concelebrating when he's in vestments, and he's acting as master of ceremonies, and that would be the proper thing for him to do at the consecration, to kneel. These people seem to find a lot of fascination with the Cardinal's assistant. The priests in black cassocks put a stole on before distributing communion. What is the purpose of that, and why is it required? We would like to understand the meaning of wearing the stole. Well, basically there are two types of stoles that are used as part of the vestments for Mass and the sacraments. One is the stole that just comes down parallel to two parts to it, or one big long one, and the priest puts it around his neck and it comes down in two parallel lines. And the other is a stole that goes across the chest, and that's the deacon's stole. When the priest is distributing Holy Communion, or the deacon, in their liturgical role, they should have a stole on, because that's the proper vestment to wear when you're giving out communion. Whether or not you have your vestments, at least you will have the stole if you are distributing Holy Communion. Why are green vestments only worn on Sunday and not at daily Mass? That's a very good question. I'm sure a number of people have asked that of themselves. If you look at the Mass that's live streamed, not by us, but in other places, very often the daily Mass will be green vestments. The reason for that is that this is what we call ordinary time. It's not Advent, it's not Lent, it's not Christmas time, it's not Easter time, but it is ordinary time. And so the vestments are green for a Mass during ordinary time. The difference that happens is that if there's a feast of a saint, or for a saint, for example, like today, St. Elizabeth, and St. Elizabeth would have been a holy woman, and you would wear white vestments. But if it's not a special feast day or memorial of a saint, or a dedication of a church, the vestments would be green, unless you offer a votive Mass in honor of, and there are a number of different votive Masses, and that's usually what we do here at St. Patrick's. It's our custom at the live stream Mass at 7 a.m. To offer votive Masses of the Blessed Virgin, the Sacred Heart, the Precious Blood, St. Joseph. There are a number of different votive Masses that can be offered. And each time that you see, during ordinary time, the priest not wearing, or the cardinal not wearing green vestments, because he's offering a votive Mass in honor of some special reason. Number 7. Why are the New York Police Department officers sometimes seen walking toward the back of the altar? Are they called to come to the cathedral, or are they always there for security purposes? We do not have we have our own security people, but police officers very often are in front of the church, and they patrol this area, and we're very, very happy to have them. We honor the police officers that have been given to us to watch over this neighborhood. and to watch over the church. Sometimes if you see the officers coming in, it's to use the facilities that we have downstairs. But we like the cops. Okay, here's from New Jersey. Being able to watch all of you is the best way I know to start my day. That's a great way to start one's day with Holy Mass. At our parish, we are not permitted to receive the Eucharist by mouth, but I have noticed that you have served parishioners that way. I'm an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion, and I've always been of the mindset that I'm handling the Lord's body, and I believe the Lord keeps me out of harm's way. Am I foolish to feel that way? No, you're not foolish at all. A number of people have brought up to me, and this is the policy of the Archdiocese. The policy of the Archdiocese is that people coming to Holy Communion will receive Holy Communion in their hand, in their outstretched hand. If a person does not do that and asks to receive communion on the tongue, the policy of the diocese is not to deny them being able to receive that way. But if that happens, then the priest, here at St. Patrick's, we only have the priest on the staff giving out Holy Communion. The priest has to be extremely careful, not in any way to touch the tongue or the skin of the person receiving Holy Communion. And if he does, he has to stop right away, turn around, and sanitize his hands. I can tell you that from the very beginning, since we've gone to having people present at Mass, I have not ever once given communion on the tongue where I touched either the saliva or the skin of the person. I am extremely careful, and I think most people would say that if you do not in any way touch the skin of the person or the body of the person, there's almost no chance of sharing or receiving the coronavirus. At the same time, if somebody receives in their hand and by chance you touch the hand of the person, again, the policy is that the priest is to stop, turn around, sanitize his hands, and then continue with giving out communion. So that's the explanation for that, because a number of people have brought that issue up, and that the answer to it is the policy of the Archdiocese. My question is whether you feel there's a chance the pandemic will have the effect of bringing people back to the church and even attracting new believers. Well, that would certainly be my great hope and prayer. It is very hard to see churches that are empty, churches that used to be filled with people enthusiastically coming to church or coming to the sacraments, being bereft of people or being empty. Certainly, St. Patrick's, which has a capacity of over 2,500 people, and on Sundays, if we have 3 masses, and we'll have at the most 900 people. So it's kind of sad, but when things are over, when things can go back to a new type of normal, we hope that most people will come back to church. Certainly, I understand people's fear of the coronavirus, and since we don't have a vaccine yet, and some people, even after we do have the vaccine, some people will still be afraid because of their age or their health issues. So it is something that's very understandable, and some people will probably never come back to a regular church because of fear of the coronavirus. We hope and we pray that will dissipate, and we hope and pray that the churches, not only St. Patrick's, but all of the other churches, will be filled with people who understand the importance. Just to step back for a second, for us Catholics, coming to church and being with our fellow believers is part of who we are and of what being a Catholic is. Sometimes people say, well, I can be just as good a Christian if I stay home and read my Bible. And in many ways, people will believe that. But for most of us who are Catholic, that's not something that we really believe is the right way of living our faith. Living our faith is sharing our faith with other people. right now, and in this situation, that could be a danger, so we don't require people to do that. But as time gets on, we hope to have the fellowship of our fellow Catholics sitting in the pews with us and celebrating the Mass together. So that was from Colorado Springs. Question. What are you and the other rectory priests planning to do for Thanksgiving? Well, that's a good question. We've been talking about Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving Day itself, we will continue to have the live streaming of the Mass. During the day, we will have another Mass at noon and a Mass at 5:30 in the evening. Each year when we have the 5:30 Mass, I usually take it because I won't be with my family on Thanksgiving. My parents have died, and my two brothers, one lives upstate a little bit, and the other lives in New Jersey. And just because I can't get free until the evening, it would be too difficult for my brothers who are having Thanksgiving dinners for them to wait until Bobby gets over, and I wouldn't get there until about 7 o'clock. So what I usually do is I go to dinner with one of my best friends to a restaurant somewhere nearby, and that's what I'm doing. I'm hoping and praying that they have turkey that night. And the other priests go to their families. Father Doherty is planning to go to Maryknoll and share Thanksgiving with his fellow Maryknoll priests. Question. This is an interesting question, and I don't really have a good answer, I don't think. I live in Central Texas, and my question is it is a wonderful thing that so many Catholic churches are now live streaming the Mass, and also allowing the faithful to watch the recording at a later time, as I did this morning, when I was a few minutes late turning into YouTube to attend. However, the local churches here in the Diocese of Austin are not allowed to permit the Mass to be replayed at a later time after it has been live streamed. I don't understand that. If that is the truth, it doesn't make too much sense to me. Probably the logic is that when the Mass is being celebrated, actually at that time, that's when people should be watching it or should be participating in it, because it's not watching it. But we believe that the Mass should be available to everybody, and we say the Mass at 7 a.m., and people are at work, or people in other parts of the country aren't even up yet. So we're very happy to archive the Mass and have it available at any time during the day. And ultimately, a month from now, people can come back to the Mass of last Sunday and watch it again for whatever reason. So just for example, on Sunday, during the day, we had almost 40,000 people participating in the live streaming. Some at the time it was offered, but all during the day people kept tuning in on YouTube and praying with us here at St. Patrick's. So I think it's a great thing to be able to see the Mass and participate at other times of the day if it's not possible to be there when the Mass is actually being celebrated. But apparently in one part of Texas that's not permitted, so I don't understand that completely, but for us it's fine. Okay. Today I watched the Q&A and found it very valuable. I wonder if you could explain for me the meaning of the vestments that you wear. I recall as a child getting ready for my first Holy Communion and not understanding the mystery of what I was seeing. A priest at the time did show and tell of what he was wearing, why, and their meaning. Okay, so for a regular Mass, for a regular priest, now bishops wear slightly different vestments and other things that priests are not permitted to wear. But if you just look at the priest celebrating Mass, what you'll see is the chasuble, which is the outward vestment, and the colors are red, purple, green, white, sometimes gold, sometimes black. and the color is determined by what the Mass is. Is it a celebration of a saint? Is it a celebration of a martyr? Is it a celebration of one of the mysteries of our faith? Depending on what the celebration is all about, determines the color of the chasuble. Chasuble comes from Latin, means a little house, because it covers completely the priest wearing it. Around the priest's neck is what's called a stole. Again, it's a symbol of the priestly role of the celebrant, or of the person who is celebrating or concelebrating. The stole is generally the same color as the chasuble, and a priest would have the stole that comes down in parallel lines. A deacon would have a stole that goes across his chest. Underneath the chasuble and the stole, the priest wears a long white garment called an alb. Alb comes from a Latin word for white, because it's generally white that he wears underneath everything. And he ties it together, or holds it together, with what's called a cincture, cincture. It's basically just a rope, but it functions as a belt, holding the stole in place and keeping the alb straight. We don't always use it anymore, but years ago we used it at every single Mass. The priest would have a garment around his neck and then tied with strings called the amice, A-M-I-C-E, and again it would cover the neck of the priest, and you wouldn't see his collar necessarily. And again, part of the reason for that is a symbol of the priestly role that the man is celebrating. So those are the things. If I had thought of it, I would have brought the vestments out, but I didn't bring them out. So this lady wants to come to St. Patrick's Cathedral with her husband when things get back to normal. So we'd be very happy to have her, as we're very happy. Anybody who, when things become better and more normal, any one of my virtual parishioners, I hope that you'll take a moment, if you get here to New York City, to come and celebrate with us and say hello, because it's wonderful to hear from the virtual parishioners. It's even more wonderful when they get a chance to stop by and we see them and we see who they are. One of the realities of celebrating Mass here at St. Patrick's for the last, I'm here almost 15 years, was that in the very beginning, we began our live streaming, if you will, not on computers or on television, but on the radio. Sirius and later Sirius XM radio had the Mass every morning or every day here from New York, and it was in other parts of the country at different times of the day for them. And people would come up to me often, again, before the live streaming television image would come, and they would say, well, we used to hear you every day on Sirius XM, but now we know what you look like. We heard your voice, but we didn't know what you looked like. Now everybody knows what we look like. So, can you please tell us something about the wonderful organ at St. Patrick's, and how someone becomes a church organist? Well, the answer to the second question is the same answer. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? The famous line, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. And the same thing, how do you become a church organist? Practice, practice, practice. We have three wonderful organists, Dr. Pasquale, Daniel Brondell, and Michael Hay. They are very accomplished musicians, as a matter of fact, very well known throughout the country in the music area. They are inspirations to all of us for their hard work and their great competence. All you have to do is come on a Sunday or watch on a Sunday and see the organists in their doing their job and doing it very, very well. The organ that we have the gallery, and there's a console up there, and then we have a smaller console down here right by the altar itself. They were built by an organ company from St. Louis, Missouri. It's called George uh, George Kilgan and Son. They were the organ builders, and the one in the gallery has been here since the 1930s. Sometime in the 30s, it replaced a smaller organ that had been up there from 1879 until the 1930s. It's very powerful. All you have to do is, when one of the organists decide to pull out all the stops and make it very, very loud, it's very, very powerful. It will kind of shake you in your boots. But it's a wonderful instrument, and we're very happy to have it. During the restoration of the cathedral, we took out all of the pipes that we have. Then there are 9,000 pipes plus, and we had them cleaned and fixed. We're in the midst of discussing some more work on the organ that is very, very expensive, and at the current stage, there's no way that I can find the money to do what we would like to do on restoring the organ in a very important way. So it's something that we have to think about and pray about for the future. I have a question. Why does the celebrant break off a tiny piece of the host and drop it in the wine during the Eucharist? It's the priest will break the host in half and then take a tiny bit and drop it in the wine. Symbolically, it's sharing the humanity and the divinity of Christ as a sign to the priest himself, a reminder to the priest himself of the nature, the divine nature and the human nature of Christ. I'm sure there are other explanations, but that's the one that I was given as I grew up. And it's only a tiny piece that we put into the precious blood. So I think that's all the time we have for Q&A. I still have a couple more for next week. And again, if you would like to have a question answered, please send it to me, RTR, Robert T. Ritchie, RTR, B as in boy, man, M-A-N, at AOL.com. RTRBman at AOL.com. All one word, all small letters. Thank you. We'll see you next week.